I'm Melissa Chappell.
I'm Sophie Williams.
Welcome back to our podcast,
Autism by Autistics. I nearly forgot my name then, you know. Talking about overload, meltdown, and burnout.
So if we start with overload, we are going to talk about like the differences between these because I think people often get confused about exactly how it differs. So how overload differs from meltdown and so on,
and what they are, because I don't think sometimes definitely. Like burnout's definitely not talked about much.
No, it really isn't. And it's something that doesn't even just affect autistic people. Burnout, it sort of affects everyone in different ways.
But like,
which is odd.
It took me years after diagnosis to sort of actually come across the term burnout.
Yeah, me too.
And what it does, and it just kind of feels a bit like this could have been really useful. Like 4 years back.
You can prevent, but if you don't, then you're stuck.
Yeah.
So if we start by talking about overload, so what overload is,
how?
I think if we both try and define it from our own perspective, so we're not going to use official definitions, we're just going to use what it means to us. Overload internally feels a bit like a build-up. I am going to explain this properly soon. But
I'll patiently wait.
Overload, it's sort of like bits of you just chipping away and your coping is going down. I think coping's the main thing to focus on with overload. So one thing that I find helpful to talk about, you already know, I've spoken to you about block theory before.
Because you don't like the spoon theory.
No, I'll explain that briefly to the audience. There's something called spoon theory, which came up with by the autistic community. And it's basically that each day you have so many spoons and one task takes up one spoon and that changes per person. But at the end of the day, if you've got no spoons left, then you're more likely to have a meltdown. But I prefer block theory, which I have to credit my mum for because she uses it in our family, where it's basically like a Jenga tower of just singular blocks, and each thing in your day is going to take up a block. And that will change between people and between ages, so I'll talk about that afterwards. But basically, say you've got 5 blocks in a day, each day, that are available coping-wise, so each one is a chunk of your coping. By the time the 5 are gone, it's no longer overload, it's meltdown. And often, it's a lot lower for kids, so I think kids don't cope as well. I don't know if you'd agree.
Yeah,
they're learning more still.
I think looking back, as well, you're just not as aware of it as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So your regulation is just, especially for me, like emotional regulation, looking back was abysmal for me. It was bad.
And I think even like sensory stuff, you just find ways to deal with it, which you're still in that learning process when you're younger. The older you get, I feel like the more blocks you've got in general each day. But what takes up those blocks changes quite a lot. So if it's a day where you've got like a big appointment, that might be like 2 blocks gone already the start of the day. Whereas if it's just an ordinary day, then you're probably going to start with your full 5. Nothing's going to like immediately take.
It does. It varies. Even the same task, like lectures. Like I know myself, like different lectures use different blocks.
Yeah.
The more intense stuff is more blocked. And it's just kind of, you can't even pinpoint it. It's so specific. And some days, as you say, things take up more blocks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've sort of got a family of spoon theory because it's sort of stretched to just chronic illnesses in general. So like my mum's uses spoons.
I just like the blocks because then it's like it's going to topple over.
Yeah.
Whereas spoons, it also doesn't
Yours
make
does
as much
make more sense actually.
Like, you can fill a block up. There's so many variations. So there's like water bottle theory where if you let it get too much, it's going to spill over the top. There's all different analogies, but the overarching point is basically how much coping you've got per day and being very careful to manage that. So if you know that talking to somebody in a public sector, for example, is going to take up a block, then do something immediately afterwards that's going to regain that block. So just something to calm down or recharge yourself, ground yourself.
Get new blocks.
Exactly.
Rebuild the tower.
And again, that's so personal. So I don't know what for you, but for me, if a block's gone, it's like it depends. If it's a sensory thing, then it's like cancel out that sensory issue.
Yeah.
Or a cup of tea. A cup of tea restores a block a bit.
Coffee.
Yeah. Like, just little things. And I think it's the same for everyone. I think even if you're neurotypical, you have those days where you're just like, I need tea. I need this, I need that. Because
you know
I just don't feel great. No.
It's a blueberry muffin and a mocha. That's like the day's either gone downhill or it's a really good day. It's like I'm either having a bad day or a great day when I have a mocha and a blueberry muffin.
So basically, overload is all about managing that. So you've got a build up constantly that you're working against, and it's about keeping it on a level pace.
Yeah, and I think it's also being aware of how many blocks you've got in a day, because I mean, like at the moment we're getting the kitchen redone, I've got like half the amount of blocks I usually have, and everything seems to be taking more blocks as well.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of, I know when it's over, I say that like I'm not starting lectures when it's over. So I'm going to be on reduced blocks for a while, I think.
Yeah, I think you will.
I'll get there. Pumpkin spice lattes will recharge the block. If I'm shaking from caffeine withdrawal around campus,
I'm surprised you do it already.
It's fine.
What I was going to ask you about, actually, and you kind of just mentioned it a bit, is whether you actually keep a close track on it. Because for me, it's became automatic. It's like I used to, and I would recommend it to anyone sort of trying to deal with their coping for the first time, is to keep a little note of how many blocks you think you've got and then monitor what's taking them up and how they're coming down.
I could do this in my bullet journal. This is like the best thing. I think I keep track of it more when it's bad. Like I sort of am aware there's less blocks, and then I'll actually also let people around me know. I think I sort of snapped at my mum last night, like, come on, no blocks. I'm out of blocks and everything's taking more blocks, so don't speak to me. But it's just, I think when it's bad, but when it's really good, it's just kind of like, yay, more blocks.
Yeah.
I think it's more important to like manage it when there's less.
I think the thing is, if someone said to me like, oh, how many do you have in an average day? I don't actually know, because what I don't do is keep a track of how many I think I've got. But I'm very conscious of everything that happens. I'm like, that's stuck coping, that's stuck coping. And you start to get a feel for what meltdown overload, and then the brewer meltdown is going to feel
that's the next point. Jumping ahead.
Tied in for you. There you go.
For my next point, it's not the zone out now. So, overload, I think it's not just, it's how do you know you're an overload? What does it feel like?
It's difficult.
Now, for me, I've worked out it feels like being tipsy.
I think that's quite accurate. Because, say, like, the way I normally see it in mine is, like, the last block is, like, once that's gone, meltdown.
Yeah.
So overload's normally just before you get to that last block.
It sort of builds up. There's, like, for me, there's definitely stages of overload.
Yeah, there is.
It's like, say you've got, like, 4 blocks left and it's, like, block gone. It's, like, early stage overload. Next block gone. Second stage overload.
Because the problem is we're always coping. We're always dealing with some degree of overload, just sometimes it doesn't register.
Yeah. Like, I've had people say you seem so put together, and I was like, no, there's like 60 things that are setting me off right now, and I'm like at borderline. I've got 4 blocks left.
Like normally when I leave the house, so say like the weather's okay and it's an ordinary day.
Not like today.
I'm coping with everything of like noises, movements, you know, any sensory issues or change in routine. I'm coping with it. It just normally doesn't feel much like coping because I'm so used to those little things on an ordinary day. Like today, as you know.
Yeah.
Today was an overload day.
Just came into the office, just went, I'm this close to a meltdown, and I'm like...
Yeah, it was like 1 block away.
one block away.
Because today was basically routine prevented in the morning, and then lots and lots of glorious wind, which was just noise and movement, and then Starbucks is closed, so our plan for a pumpkin spice latte just went completely, and that was just too many things to cope with. But thankfully, like, because we were podcasting, I have my headphones, and my headphones have got active noise cancellation, so it's like whatever noise is incoming, it just blocks it out, and that was the only way I got to the office without having a meltdown, was just the headphones.
Yeah.
So things like that can just give you quick coping back, but enough to not cause a meltdown, I think.
You might say I just had a lazy morning. Then decided I should probably leave the house. But yeah, I think there's definitely... I mean, it doesn't even have to be anything active. It's like things that are passive. Like, I know we're going to have a new kitchen.
Yeah.
I know what everything looks like. But I know there's going to be it's going to be different. It's going to change. Because my whole life, this kitchen's been the same.
That's difficult.
This kitchen's older than me that's getting gutted.
Did you take pictures of your old kitchen at least?
There's various pictures.
Okay, that's good. At least you can like.
There's a lot of pictures. It has been a slight focal point.
Yeah.
of life as the kitchen. I'm glad the table's not going. Just a complete side note, because that's
nice if you've got something that's like.
Because that table, it's got like paint stains on it. Like when my grandma would like lift the tablecloth and I'd like paint and draw and play with Play-Doh on it. It's had homework, assignments, coursework done on it. So it's like. It's an important table, that table. It's a good table.
It's when you're something that you're attached to, isn't it? More than like an appliance or a unit. It's when you associate it with the memory, then the change is difficult. Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be easier things about having a new kitchen. It's just the stress and the change and just...
That's the thing, changing routine is a huge one.
Yeah. Like the buses have been...
Oh, that's been some coping on each day. Stuff like that in Liverpool currently.
It's just roadworks.
3 to 4 different roadworks, and then it's happened over in the Wirral now, so it's like, no.
Is it up by you, is it?
I think that might be done now, thankfully, but I couldn't get in on Monday. It was just a nightmare.
There's been some signs up by me, and it's like, the road's going to be closed on this day from this time, so I'm going to be like super early, because it's like from 9 a.m. I'm like,
they're not even that decent by us to say, like,
the thing
this is when it's getting done.
They've gone, and I'm like, well, it's still 9 a.m, so I'm just going to get up super early, and I'll be here from like 8 o'clock in the morning.
I think it's a bit of a stereotype, isn't it? Like, I don't know if you encountered it, but especially when I was getting diagnosed, people think overload meltdown is purely about routine. And I'm like, it's a big factor because it's something that it's change and we do struggle with change and it shakes you up a bit. But it's not just that.
It's more sensory, to be honest. If someone said to me, what's the main cause, it's sensory. Especially because like, when I'm saying what it feels like, and it feels like being tipsy, because the first thing I find is it's that like slight buzzed feeling, like everything's a little bit out of focus, and then certain things feel stronger at the same time. So like the less blocks you have, the easier it is for the next one to fall.
It's harder, and this might be a bit of a tangent, but what I think I might have spoke to you about this before. Basically I would cope so much like complete blogs available if I could just leave the house every day with headphones on, like these kind of headphones where there's noise cancellation. But I get so scared about safety. Yeah. Because I'm like, realistically, today's society, it's not safe to go out wearing something technology-wise. Like, you are at risk then. And then it's like, if you wear ordinary ear defenders, are you at risk for a different reason because it's showing that you're different? Yeah. You know?
See, I tend to wear, I think what's been really good is there's definitely been more of a movement into over-ear headphones. So there's like, if you've got sort of like inconspicuous ear defenders, it's not as a big thing. True. Unless you want to walk around with the stupid AirPods, which is a massive tangent.
What's an AirPod?
The Apple ones. And it just looks like you've got these two little things hanging out your ears. Like,
they're so much easier for someone to grab as well. I feel so anxious. Like,
I just want to like flick them out of people's ears, because it's just like, how is that safe? How did they not fall out? I use earbud headphones for the same reason, like you say about safety, because I don't like overhead noise cancel ones, because I like, as much as it's distressing to be aware of every sound and does cause overload, I also need to be aware of my surroundings. I I lost some hearing with a head cold once, and I was in so much distress. My mum just sat there and went, you moan that you can hear everything and it's a problem for you, but now you can't hear anything, that's a problem for you. I think she gave up on me.
See, my sound is that hypersensitive that even with the noise cancellation on this, I could hear the rubbish blowing past me still when I was walking in. It's not so much a danger that way, because I think legally as well they have to make it so
I mean, I can still hear. I think I also find them less comfortable. I've got enough to carry in my day-to-day life without having big headphones. I think
that's a problem too.
Yeah, I don't want headphone hair. The vanity comes out. It's just easy to have little earbuds. Then there's got to be specific ones as well.
It's more that with earbuds you have to listen to music, and if you're already not coping, then that's another thing to factor in.
I'm always listening to music.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an issue for us because we're both obsessed with music, and it's just like, we're listening on repeat. I'm thinking more like, if you're not, then huge issue.
It'd be awful.
I know. I couldn't imagine.
How do you cope? I think we sort of covered like sort of what to do in overload. It's having those things to bring it back.
But I think what's interesting is what other people can do for you. Like, if you're someone that's listening and maybe wants to help someone.
I think for me, like, what other people can do, I think even the big thing is just making people aware I'm an overload, so don't put more stuff on me.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing like, with the kitchen, because Mum will be like, can you do some of this stuff because air coping's gone. Mine's like, on its terrors. I hate when I came in last night and it's just like, no, do not give me one more thing. Just don't. It's like my grandma tried to speak to me and it's just like, please, no, I can't. And it's just kind of saying to other people, just don't right now.
You kind of need an advocate in a way, don't you?
Yeah.
So just be like, no, lay off a bit.
It's trying to do it nicely as well to tell people to lay off a bit, because if I'm like coping, I'll just be like, just stop. But I think, and then if you know things that bring people back, like if I know if you're on a rough day, I'll make you a cup of tea. I'll go to coffee shops. You
see, I'm probably more in touch of when you're not coping than when I'm not coping, because it's easier to observe than introspect sometimes with things like this.
Yeah, I think again, because I overload, especially like at the moment, I know it's going to take ages for me to get like recognition of things back again. Because I've been in a sort of state of it. I'm just going to moan about the kitchen for this whole podcast. This damn kitchen. But it really needs doing, this kitchen. But it's just kind of like, because I'm now just, it's become an adaptation of just being with reduced coping. It's going to be amazing when I've got like 10 blocks, not 5. But again, it's that thing of it's easier. And especially because like, sometimes like we do say to each other like, I'm in overload today, or like this and this has happened. Like, it's been a rough morning, especially because we both commute in on buses, and it'll be like, there's noise on the bus.
It can be so variable of what you're coping with on the bus.
I had to change buses today. I was just like casually
on the bus. Another one that's a nightmare.
And it just threw me off because I sort of like had my phone out, my headphones, and like another bag, and I was like trying to like untangle myself. And then it's like get on the bus in front, and I'm like, why? What's wrong with this bus? It's not like, I wouldn't mind if it had broken down or something.
Had it though, maybe?
I don't know.
I think that's normally why.
Just me trying to like untangle myself.
But yeah, I think like the most helpful thing for me was I wasn't like the reason my mum brought block theory in for the family was I wasn't always aware when I was running out of coping, and she was more in tune with it, I think, than I was. So she would basically explicitly point out to me, you're not coping as well now because that happened. And she'd just done that for years of, right, that thing's happened, factor that in because your coping might be less.
Yeah.
Obviously, she didn't always know. She was just making a judgment of what might have impacted, but just pointing it out helped me to consider.
That's really good.
Is that why I'm not really coping as well as I normally would?
I must admit, like, my mum does sometimes, like, occasionally pull up, maybe more on mental health, but it does link in. When it's like, I might not be as, I don't know, like, she'll just point out, like, changes in my behaviour and be like, is everything all right?
Exactly. It's good to just have someone basically saying, you're not coping right now.
If you know those things that are sort of, it's also a sign when something's, like, something's anxiety-inducing.
That's true.
It's also, like, when you got less blocks, it's knowing what triggers those less blocks, and that's useful. If you can prevent...
everyone's got different triggers, that's what's difficult.
It's a problem, isn't it? Can't generalise anything when you're autistic.
No. But then as well, like, I think it helps, as you were saying, to be able to say to someone, I'm not coping. Because I know for me as well, my processing speeds will slow to a crawl and not the best today. That's why I don't sound as coherent. So then it's good to just let people know, like, my brain's not working at full capacity right now.
I think as well, like, speaking of processing speed, like, with the kitchen, me and my mum were moving something, you know this. And when I'm, again, like you, when I'm not coping, my processing speed completely slows down. And she said, stop to me, as in stop moving, because, like, I was going to crash into something. Well, that didn't process until after I'd crashed into the thing. And it was just kind of like...
laugh, I've been there too.
It wasn't a bad crash, it was just like, oh, alright. And Mum's like, I told you to stop. And I went, look, I'm like 4 seconds behind. So then she said, stop like 4 seconds early.
It's helpful though. People know. The thing is,
I'm moving something with someone who I don't think knows I'm autistic tomorrow, so I'm going to have to be like, look, say stop 4 seconds beforehand.
I think, like, so much is going on this month.
Yeah.
Every time I speak to someone lately, there's a processing delay, and it's hard because people look at you straight away, like, respond, and I'm like, so it's like this is going to take a couple of minutes for me to realise what you've just said to me. So I just sort of smile and nod, like, okay, I don't know what you just said, but okay.
See, I try not to say anything, so that few, you know, you've gone in and jumped with an answer, and then it's been the wrong answer. And then it's when they're out of context and it just gets,
See, I found that now though, if I just say okay and then I get a look like, what are you on about? Then I'll just be like, look, I'm sorry, I'm not processing right now.
Yeah, I tend to go with the processing more.
Comes back to that wrong assumption though, that we're always being rude. Like, I think No, it's just taking its time to get there, that's all.
It is. So after overload, when the final block falls,
meltdown.
I mean, I just want to say meltdowns aren't only caused from overload. Like, sometimes it's just... It doesn't always have to be that build-up. Like, sometimes if I just get a ton of information for an at me at once... I think
they're always caused by overload, but it's not always a slow process. Yeah. Sometimes it's like something huge has happened.
It's that feeling overload and then that reaction and release of just everything.
Yeah. You don't always know that you're in overload because it's also rapid. It's just one straight.
Like, I've been learning to iron this year, and it's just been... There's been so many meltdowns over the ironing, and it's just because it's so much at once, and it's new, and it took me a few years to get over a fear of the iron. There's
a lot of misconceptions around a meltdown though. Like, the main one I think is probably that people think we're having a tantrum. Exactly. No.
Because I internalise very much when I'm having a meltdown.
I'm the same as you.
It's tears, curl up in a ball.
Exactly.
Lots and lots of tears. I tend to sort of go to dark enclosed spaces as well.
Yeah, me too.
It's a thing I do.
It's like darkness, shutting off my ears somehow in any way. Sometimes I have like sensory behaviours where it's like I need something to fiddle with, or like just a cushion to squeeze. Like, if you get in that urge, just like... For
me, I just seem to want to hide. My mum's actually... I hate that she's got this. Because, like, to be fair to my mum, she worked out I was a bratty kid. And that wasn't just because they were all meltdowns. Like, I did have tantrums as well. I did very much like my own way and very much didn't like not getting my own way. Like, I told you about this, but there's a great picture of me, and you can tell I've been crying. And there's like 2 pieces of Christmas cake. There's like a small, like, child-sized piece of Christmas cake further away from me, and then next to me is a larger bit of Christmas cake. So I think
wanted the larger one.
I only used to eat the icing and like a bit of the cake, so like I felt deprived having the only small bit of icing.
This is a good point actually, because I think some of it is just kid behaviour. You know, when you're autistic, you do still have tantrums. It's not the same as having a meltdown.
Yeah, I'm not having a meltdown with the fact that I've only got a small bit of Christmas cake. It's because I want more Christmas cake. But then my mum realised that I was also having these, what were like tantrums, but I'd be crying for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
And it was really intense and stuff. And luckily she figured out before we even knew. It was one of the first things she kind of realised and just kind of knew she had to let me cry out.
It's like hysteria as well. I don't know if you get the same way. It's not normal crying. It's like hysterical crying for like hours. But yeah, like, I think my family struggled a bit because it's hard, I think, especially there's a thing in society, isn't there, of like when you're a female it's okay to cry, and this horrible thing of if you're not a female it's not okay, and it's like, no, everyone can cry. But I think people are then naturally a bit more accepting of that behaviour. But the problem is because it's on such a grand scale, then it was always a bit like, oh, is this mental health? So we need to intervene, what's going on? And it was always like a bit of a panic for everyone around me, and it was how I ended up going in to the doctor. I didn't actually go in and talk about autism because I didn't really know what was going on. Just I was having meltdowns a lot, and it's because I had really bad people around me outside of family, and they were taking up my coping all the time.
Yeah.
So then it's meltdown all the time. And all I knew was like, I'm getting these behaviours that don't make sense. I don't feel like I'm in control, but I'm just upset, but I'm worried about the fact that I feel like I'm not in control, and it doesn't seem pleasant for other people. Yeah. And so I just sort of went in and was like, oh, I'm having these breakdowns and I can't explain them and I don't know what they are. And I thought it was just like mental health. But it wasn't until then I finally got through to the psychiatrist that they were like, this is a key sign of you being autistic. And I think it probably is the easiest to spot externally in a person.
Yeah, I think if you sort of like step back and don't just assume someone, especially a child, they're not having a tantrum, and then go, actually, there's more to it than this. It's different. You're not looking for the reaction. Yeah. It doesn't resolve itself. Like once what you perceive the issue. Thing. That's the thing. Like say, like with the ironing stuff, there was a few times I had to just leave the iron and you and finished it off. It didn't stop the meltdown. It continued. I just went upstairs and dealt with it. And
I think the reason for that is because you've got less blocks afterwards of coping. Like the thing is, sometimes it does restore a bit of your coping. Like I think we've spoke about this before, is that sometimes you need to get the meltdown out of your system.
Yeah,
otherwise, you're not going to function.
It's like shaking up a fizzy bottle.
Yeah.
It is pressurised and it's not going to go anywhere. And I think it's like, I definitely sort of will avoid having it in public and try and like delay it till I get home, but then I'll just release it. And I think, I've had a few in public. I had a great one at school once.
Yeah, it's hard in public.
I think it is. I mean, it was all right in the school because it was like mother specialist school, but I think it proved the point to them that I was having issues.
I think public meltdowns, like, it's important if you, like, it's hard because, again, there's no control, but if you can do everything in your power to hold it in until you get home,
or to a safe place as well.
Because it's even worries, like, you know, if your behaviour seems erratic, are the police going to see you and think, oh no, what's going on there?
Yeah.
You just don't want to draw any attention that could make the meltdown worse, basically. It's not necessarily going to be someone targeting you. It could be someone trying to protect everyone else around you and thinking it's something it's not. And
yeah, and even if someone tries to help, if it's the wrong type of help, it can be difficult. Yeah. Like for me, there's Meltdown 101. There's a set process of what you do.
Yeah.
Like for me, I like someone to talk gently to me, not like ask me questions, but just speak around me because it gives me something to ground on and focus.
Questions are bad though.
But no
the minute
questions.
Someone's like, why are you in meltdown? I was like, stop talking to me.
It's like, right now I can't focus to figure it out. I'll look back and analyse why I'm in meltdown like tomorrow. But right now I'm in meltdown. I'm not going to respond. Because I definitely, because my meltdowns do go up in intensity, so there are more severe ones where I'll lose.
Definitely. It depends on like coping again.
Yeah, I'll go
how quick it's gone.
Yeah, I'll go non-verbal. I'll just like lose that ability to like just speak.
I was never non-verbal or minimally verbal, and I never had language delays. So then the fact that the minute I'm in meltdown, it's not that I don't speak. Sometimes I can't get any words out. Usually it's just like if you ask me a question, you're gonna get the same answer on repeat about 10 times because it's all I can do, and it's a bit of a stimming thing as well. Yeah. And it's like I mentioned, I think it was last week, about when I was travelling and couldn't get through the ticket barrier because I just couldn't speak. It's like, it's really hard and it's a barrier, and often like if you're going to be a public and you might have a meltdown, plan out where safe places are to go. Like, you know, if you can't stop until you get home, get to a toilet, get to, you know, like a breakout room if there's a breakout room. Have somebody around you if you can have someone, or even just like on the other end of the phone to talk to. Yeah,
that's the thing. Like I must admit, my poor mother gets quite a few phone calls, just contact throughout the day, because it's just, again, it's that grounding thing of someone to talk to.
It helps because it's just reassuring that you're going to get through whatever's caused it as well. But yeah, I did have one experience going back on to the fact that you need a meltdown sometimes.
Yeah.
Where I was in the hospital, so obviously instantly overwhelming, but it was also a really scary time of like stuff they were investigating. And I think it was it was a CT scan. And CT scans aren't that bad when you've had an MRI, but they're still bad. So when people are like, oh, it's okay, it's like, no, it's a noisy machine.
I fidget a lot. I'm terrified of needing to have a scan. I'm not claustrophobic, it's the fact that I can't stay still.
Well, this was my kidneys as well, so then they inject the dye. And the doctor was lovely. It was like, you know, you're really going to feel like you need to go to the toilet, and don't worry, it's not going to happen, but it is. It's like, you know, when you're desperate for the toilet, but you're not really needing to go. It's a horrendous, you know what I'm like.
I'm that person that's like constantly needs the toilet.
So, of course,
that would break me.
I came out of it and was just like, couldn't speak. Eyes welling up. I think I did just sit there and cry, and my mum was with me and she just sensed meltdowns coming. Like, this is overload, meltdowns coming. And she managed to ground me enough by talking to me and like getting me food and distracting me that the meltdown didn't happen. And it was more because, again, we were in a hospital setting and it's people are going to panic. People are going to be like, why is someone this upset?
People panic in hospital. It's like a natural state of being there.
I was glad that she got me out of that situation. But then it was all that build-up, all the coping was still taken up the next day. And I had then like an event to go to, and all the blocks were gone because meltdown hadn't happened to recharge. It's hard because like at the same time, as much as having the meltdown restores your coping,
it's still not fun.
It doesn't restore it to zero. No. So like, you need to have it, otherwise your coping is not coming back.
Yeah, I mean...
And it'll just roll over to like the next day or the next event.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes you need to sleep it off afterwards, because after I've had a meltdown, it's more likely it's like an earthquake. There's another one due if anything else happens.
Yeah, there's such an exhausting process, because it's just, it feels like just, I like the term meltdown because it does feel like a nuclear meltdown. It just feels like every single system just dies.
But it's hard, like there's been times I've had the meltdown bit coping back, but then like someone who I see in that day then doesn't understand the process and piles more on, and then you're back up to meltdown, and then it's worse because it's your second one. It's like, oh,
that's the thing, it builds up, and it's about regaining enough coping. I mean, I'm trying to think, I had a meltdown so bad this year, it put me into shutdown afterwards. They just take so much out of you as well, just mentally. And that has an impact.
It's hard because people do get mixed up. Like, when you say you're autistic, it's like, oh, have you got a mental health condition? It's like, no.
I mean, yes,
neurological.
But...
yeah, like, they're comorbid. It's not autism, that's the mental health thing.
It's like, yes, I know, I have additional things, but autism is not. Autism's just me.
The thing is, like...
depression and anxiety just sprinkles on the top.
The confusing thing is that it interacts, so...
yeah.
Your mental health conditions will change by the fact that you're autistic. And parts about being autistic, like meltdown, can cause mental health. So, like, a particularly bad meltdown, I think especially it comes back to the public risk, is you can feel so much shame. And then there's a lot of depression around that and anxiety.
Oh, there's so much anxiety.
Even overload, to be honest, can just make you feel depressed about how you've come across to someone or things like that.
But I think that's the thing as well. It's like, and then you get anxious, and especially about like having them in public, it is so anxious, and then you'll see something about stigma, there'll be something that happens recently, even if it's not about autism, even if it's like a hate crime of any type, that makes you more anxious about it, and then that makes you have less coping and more like to go into it. It's this really awful vicious cycle, and it's horrible.
Because when I'm in overload, like, there's no proper, I can't give proper responses in like conversation.
Yeah.
And then I get mixed up with what I'm saying, or like my processing stopped. And then it's like anxiety of, oh no, that person won't understand that, and, you know, I've maybe just give bare minimum responses to everything they've asked, or I've responded to a different question.
And then it's isolating.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, I don't want them to dislike me.
And I think that comes back into socialisation. Like, me and you were super honest about if it's a bad day, and it's just kind of like, I mean, we don't take, I mean, I wouldn't pick up if you said anything that was too wrong anyway, really. No. So I think it's like, we don't judge each other anyway. Yeah, we just laugh. It's a laugh or cry. But like, when I know like one of us isn't coping, again, it's even less of a risk. So it's that sort of, I think that's why I've also found it easy to be friends with people with mental health, because again, there's also that understanding of like, when things aren't good, things change.
I've not seen it yet, so I can't fully recommend it, but is it Richard and Jacko, is it called, the documentary? And it's the dad with his son.
I've not seen it. You recommended it. Your mum told me.
Yeah,
you told you to tell me.
recommended it to like everyone.
I saw someone else recommending it. That's another thing to the watch list.
But what was interesting was my mum was like trying to get me into it, like, look how good it is, and she's showing me.
Your mum enforced it on you.
Yeah, basically. She was showing me an interview on YouTube between, like, I think his name was Richard and Jacko, and the interviewer, and I think Jacko is his son. I'm not 100% sure, I've not seen it.
You're looking at me like I've seen it.
Hoping you've seen it on Twitter.
I've been binging Carnival Row.
Let's assume I'm right, and the son's Jacko. He's getting
I'll Google this, right?
He's getting quite overwhelmed because there's studio lighting and they're asking him a lot of questions. And obviously he's on TV, he's got to have a certain level of coping. And you can see that he's not processing, like, at full capacity. So when they're asking him a question, sometimes he's responding to the previous question.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like when you get to that point of overload where processing slows down. It's like, if you're asking me stuff in rapid succession, I've not had a chance to finish, I'm still responding to what you said like 10 minutes ago, and then it's not going to be coherent.
It is his son.
Okay, that makes me feel better. I've not
we have accurate fact-checked information of this podcast. But yeah, so into Burnout, and also Shutdown, which is definitely an unthought about thing. But yes, I don't really get shut down. Shutdown's quite a rare thing for me.
It's a reaction to a meltdown, but it's not always. It comes back to what you said about the different scales of meltdown.
Yeah.
I think if it's my second meltdown in a day, or if it's just something huge, or if the mental health factor's in there and I'm just feeling absolutely depressed or ashamed or whichever, then I need to shut off completely. So that's like no lights in the room, no sound on, just like no processing basically. It's really difficult for people around me to understand, because sometimes they won't realise if I've not been able to say I'm in shutdown, and then all they can get out of me, if they're lucky, is like, yeah, no, yeah, and then it's like, why are you doing this? Like, what's going on? It's very much like you're just switched off.
It's
like
it's just powering
on your mind.
down. And I think for me as well, what's also this one, I'm quite relieved that I'm going to shut down often, and to me shutdown's scarier than a meltdown because it's so rare for me. But when it happens, it's like my emotions shut off. I'll just go. I don't know if it links into having a history with depression, and I'll just shut off into nothing.
Yeah, it's like numbness.
And it lasts a few days for me.
Well, it's being proven to be unhealthy because of the mental health fact. Like, it's really bad to be in it for too long.
Like, I had a meltdown, which really bad. There was, like, an issue with uni, and, like, a system went down, and it had, like, quite catastrophic, like, effects for, like, everyone. And just, I went straight into just one of the worst meltdowns I've had. And then it went into shutdown, and I think it was about 4 days later, like, systems came back on. And that was, like, emotions. I just felt, like, just numb. For 4 days, which was great because I wasn't dealing with it, but then it's also the worry about when it comes back, and then that's really scary.
Yeah, that is the scary bit, because sometimes it's protective, like you're
at
not
the time
coping with anything exactly,
like,
but then it's definitely going to come back and be something you've got to contend with. But it can help, like, say if you've got to go outside and you're in shutdown, sometimes it's just like literally shutting off your senses, but you're also not going to be able to get much done. So it's
I also sort of just lose. I just kind of it's so scary for me because it just does not happen. Like, to be honest, it's happened maybe 5 times in my life. It's just so rare for me.
I get it quite often, not all the time though.
Yeah,
it's just when it's a bad meltdown.
But for me, it's just, even with a bad meltdown, it tends to be exhaustion, not shutdown. So again, it's like super scary. But I think it is that sort of when the emotions, when everything turns back on, what is the damage?
I mean, I don't usually find that there's damage after it. It's just that I've then got to go back and deal with the original problem. Yeah. Which is just so stressful again. For me, it's more that I go into burnout afterwards. So it's like shut down, get out of that, burnout, so it's a longer recovery process.
Yeah, I think because for me, shut down, it does last days. When I get it, it's bad. So I think there is always, and then there's a build-up of things that have still happened, and it's like they've processed, but I've not acknowledged that they have. So I come back and then I'm hit with everything, and it's just like, oh gosh,
yeah,
so it's not
difficult.
It's really not fun. But burnout's just awful because it's that just intense feeling of exhaustion, and I don't sleep well anyway.
Burnout's a funny one because I think it's worse after a meltdown, but it can happen at any stage of this process. Like, you can get burnout before overload, during meltdown. It can
just happen with anything, and I think
it's not even an autistic thing. It's like a
people thing.
Anything, and it just kind of feels like, as you say, severe exhaustion. Like, you're fighting against that exhaustion, and processing is usually always low, and it's just not really knowing why you can't function at full capacity.
I think that's where, like, looking back, it was scary because I'd definitely been in burnout for like a good 2 years, and then I had the breakdown of depression and all that, and it's just
I wish for ages.
That's the thing, it went on for ages, and it's just looking back just the general existence and struggling with so many things, being autistic, and just the world not being, you know, my sort of helpful world. And just the impact that it had, and just the effect of that, and then it did lead into depression. It's definitely one of the causal factors for it for me.
I think burnout's probably where you do get more mental health difficulties, because it's not like, right, the meltdown's done or the overload's done, now I can just recharge. It's just
constant.
It's like that constant, I feel rubbish, I don't know why my life's like this, and you just start to spiral. And
I think especially not knowing, but like now when I'm in burnout, it doesn't have the same effects, even if it's been quite a while, because I know what it is, I'm aware of the issue. And even as I said, after I was first diagnosed, I still wasn't aware of the issue, and it was still going on, and it was still being detrimental.
I think this is where it helps to be autistic, because neurotypicals get burnout, but I think they struggle with it a bit more, like, because we're so focused on our coping and like block theory and spoon theory.
I think this is
it's like, right, I'm in burnout, let's look at what I can do to regain blocks or spoons or whichever you prefer, and then it's like plan of action. And it's usually like all systems on board, so anyone you're then around, it's...
I swear if the wind's picked up on this.
Is that the wind that I can hear? That's ridiculous.
I think it is. And it was me saying to you earlier, the wind's not that bad. Yeah, no coping when I get home. I think we'll both just get in and be like, coping, gone.
Yeah. This is difficult though, like, it does impact your everyday needs and what you've got to do.
Yeah.
Like, I tried to get the bulk of my work done before I got out, so then it's like, if the wind damages me, at least some stuff's done.
Yeah, and I think like, for me, it was like, get to the office to do the work. Because home is not a work environment currently.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Like, normally I do prefer that way of, like, get in there and do it, but it was a case of, right,
you needed to
the wind is clearly not going well, and that's going to drastically reduce coping. Then I'm not going to have the processing or the headspace to get the work I need to do done. And the work that I have to do for, like, my PhD, I'm quite lucky where my topic, like psychology in general, but especially autism, it's a special interest. So
it helps.
If I'm in burnout, that's given me some coping back. It's a happy time, it's a focused time. I might not be able to give it as much focus as normal, but it's definitely getting my focus because I'm happy with it. It's restoring that, and I think it's hard because, like, there are some adaptations I have to make. I can work from home as a researcher, and although, like, if I've got a lecture to give or something like a meeting, I do have to come in, but that's fine. I can manage that and then go back home and work. Having that capacity to work from home when burnout or overload, it just makes it a lot better because you're getting more done than you would if you just tried to work through it in a public place.
I think that's what's really good because, like, we have lecture capture here at University of Liverpool, so your lectures have to be recorded. There's actually, like, a rule here. There's, like, a few reasons why I can't. So I know I can go and catch up, and that makes a huge difference because I know if I force myself through burnout, overload, whatever, going to sit in a 2-hour heavy processing lecture, it's just not going to happen. And I've said that to people, and they've been like, oh, I've only just woken up. I'm like, well, don't push yourself in, because if you're not going to learn, there's no point.
Yeah.
And that's the truth of it. As much as like, you should attend your lectures, but you should also attend them when you're going to learn. It's
different being on the other side of it, though. Like, I just feel more comfortable in academia because if I've got to give a lecture, again, it's interesting. I enjoy it.
Yeah, because you're lecturing your stuff.
Fun, it's nice. No, even when I'm not, like, even when I was asked to do, like, biological psych and stuff,
stint when you did
it's just so fun to teach and feel like you're giving something back.
I think that's where it helps having what you enjoy.
Coping. Exactly. Like, if I was doing something that wasn't in the special interest category.
Retail.
See, thankfully, there's a lot you can do. Like, there's even data stuff that ties into academia that would be still fun. It's just... things like retail just don't help.
The less people, the better, really. Like, even lectures, you're not interacting with anyone, so it's still fine.
Yeah, even if you're, like, giving a lecture to, like, hundreds of students, and it's okay because they're not all, like, shouting at you at once, like, they're going to talk to you at the end, it's fine.
They're not listening.
Varies, but...
It does vary.
So, to finish up, thinking about how people can try and prevent this, we have spoken about little things, like personal things that you can do to regain coping, but just keeping on top of it, basically.
I think the main thing is being aware of it. You've got to be aware.
It's the biggest one.
It's just... And what triggers it, because I think sometimes that's what took me the longest to really get a grip on of what was triggering it.
Because you can't, like, do a Google search, what's going to trigger overload and meltdown.
No,
you have
it's
to know
so
your
individual.
own triggers.
Because, like, even me and you, we sort of know what triggers, and it's different.
A lot of it's learning by experience, which is hard.
Trial by fire. Trial by fire.
Really difficult because you probably don't want to go through it and find out it's going to cause a meltdown, but it's just the way it is. But again, like, if you're going to introduce something new and watch for that reaction, it's probably best to do that when you've got nothing else to cope with. So, like, when you're just a day at home or, like, doing your normal routine where you don't have to, like, go to the doctors or the dentist, you know, keep it as minimal as possible.
Don't put new things.
If you're introducing something new.
Yeah, it's like, there's definitely, at the moment, it's like, there's been a lot less pressure upon me.
So yeah, basically routines for me aren't helpful. I can have them when I need to, but when it's like the weekends, I think is the best example to use. The weekend's better for me not to have the same routine because then if it goes wrong, it's more of a problem for me. But the thing from that then is that when I feel like, right, I've got a lot to cope with and there's nothing I can do about it, is like keep everything predictable. So like eat the same food every day or eat like foods that aren't as sensory and maybe like constantly listen to my favourite music, just things that I know are going to feel like, right, this is my control over the environment, and then the stuff I can't control that's not helping me to cope is at least a bit more manageable.
Yeah, I think I was just about to like sort of bring in a point about control, and it's just control what you can. When you can't, it's like sort of grounding yourself, and that's where like special interests come in and sensory. It's where it's like, I'll rewatch the same stuff.
Exactly.
Like it's just about keeping things as shape predictable and controlled, and it's just kind of
feels nice. So.
It's just when everything feels like it's spiraling out of control, because that's what it can feel like, especially when like just it's sort of constant overload, burnout or whatever. It does everything spiraling out of control. It's just nice to get something back, even if it's just one or two things.
Yeah. So next week we're going to talk about sensory,
which I think
hypersensitivities and hyposensitivities, which we'll explain next week.
We will explain, mainly because I'll have to double check which way around it is.
I can cover it with you. It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, which means after this podcast, which way is it? I just I don't claim to know what I'm doing all the time.
It's fine. These things are easy to forget. As long as we know what we're talking about personally, it's fine. Yeah,
I'm excited to talk about sensory because it is the biggest impact in good and bad ways. So. Yeah. And it all links into this because when happy sensory things happen, it helps.
Yeah. So thank you for listening.
Yes, we will see you next week.